Daniel Lewis Lee was executed on July 14, 2020. Along with his accomplice, Chevy Kehoe, Lee was convicted of murdering a family of 3 in Arkansas, including an 8-year-old girl. The victims were William and Nancy Mueller and their daughter, Sarah. The motive? Robbery. They wanted guns, cash, and supplies to fund a white supremacist movement. Lee received a lethal injection. He declined a special last meal and ate the standard prison food. His final words were chilling. "I didn't do it. I'm not a murderer. You're killing an innocent man." What if I told you a serial killer once won a dating show, while he was actively murdering women? Rodney Alcala wasn't just charming. He was a monster wearing a smile, hiding in plain sight on national TV. In 1978, a charming man, Rodney Alcala, appeared on The Dating Game. No one knew he was secretly a serial killer, luring victims with his camera and smile. He won the show, but the woman sensed something strange and refused to date him. Years later, authorities discovered hundreds of photos of women, some still missing to this day. Dennis Rader, known as the BTK Killer, short for bind, torture, kill, terrorized Wichita, Kansas for decades. He mocked police with chilling letters, staying hidden for years. But then, he made one fatal mistake. He asked police, "If I send you a floppy disk, can it be traced?" Police said, "No." He sent it. They checked the metadata. It led to a church computer and straight to Dennis Rader. That's how one of America's most elusive serial killers got caught, by himself. A brilliant chemist. A cold-blooded killer. And a death sentence that sent chills across America. Who was he? Dustin Lee Honkin was once a gifted student, passionate about chemistry. He manufactured methamphetamine with purity levels that amazed federal agents. But he didn't stop at production. The murders. In 1993, fearing exposure by witnesses, Honkin orchestrated the murder of 5 people, including his ex-girlfriend, her 2 daughters, ages 6 and 10, and 2 federal informants. The victims vanished without a trace for over 7 years, until another witness broke the silence. Trial and death sentence. In 2004, Honkin was sentenced to death. But what shocked people wasn't just the crime, it was how calmly he accepted his fate. The last meal and his final hours. As execution day neared, Honkin requested a simple last meal: barbecue chicken pizza, vanilla ice cream, and root beer. But in a strange turn, he refused to eat. In a handwritten note, he said, "I've found God. And I believe He forgives me." The end, and unanswered questions. On July 17, 2020, Dustin Lee Honkin was executed by lethal injection. But one question still lingers. Can a mass murderer ever truly repent? Or was he just trying to silence his guilt before death? What do you think about Dustin Lee Honkin? A remorseless killer? Or a lost soul seeking redemption? He was only 19. A college student. A friend. A citizen. But on April 15, 2013, Jakart Sarnav became a terrorist. He and his brother planted 2 bombs at the Boston Marathon. 3 dead. Hundreds wounded. And then? He went back to school. Hit the gym. Like nothing happened. It wasn't until the FBI released the surveillance photos that the chase began. A stolen car. A dead officer. A shootout. His brother was killed. Jakar. Found bleeding inside a boat. He confessed from his hospital bed. No remorse. Just plans for another bomb, in Times Square. He now sits on death row. At one of the most secure prisons in the world. Waiting. He prayed. Then killed 9 people. Dylan Roof's shocking massacre. Dylan Roof walked into a historic black church in South Carolina. He smiled, sat down, and prayed with them. Then, he pulled out a gun. 9 innocent people murdered. Just because of their race. He said, they all got 7 days. He never apologized. Represented himself. Even when 37 death row inmates got clemency, he was one of the 3 left behind. Still on death row. No remorse.
On a freezing night in January 1986, 14-year-old Sean Edwards disappeared from his home, only to be found the next morning, lying in front of his school, beaten and stabbed to death. Who killed him? Why did he leave the house in the middle of the night? And why has the case remained unsolved for nearly 40 years? That night, Sean was watching a scary movie in the living room. His mother had gone to bed. But when she woke around midnight, he was gone. The next morning, a janitor discovered his body outside Middletown High School. He had been savagely beaten and stabbed multiple times. The investigating officer said, "This is unlike anything I've ever seen." Sean had recently been acting nervous. Friends said he was scared for his life, and started carrying a knife. But he never said what, or who, he was afraid of. According to his mother, he had never left the house at night before. So, why this time? Sean's father, Melvin, was questioned. Though he had no known motive, he was given a polygraph test. Another strange man, known only as Mr. Fig, was seen idling near Sean's home that night. Every lead ended in nothing. In 1992, someone finally confessed. Timothy Fairweather claimed he saw his 2 friends murder Sean on orders from a drug dealer named Nelson. But soon after, Timothy recanted. He hadn't even been in town that night. His lawyer proved his story was false. Another dead end. Nearly 40 years later, the case remains unsolved. Sean had no known enemies. No one knows why he left that night, or who lured him out. His family still waits for justice. And the town remembers that cold January morning, when a boy's life ended, and a mystery began. What do you think really happened to Sean Edwards? Comment your theories below. And don't forget to subscribe for more true horror stories and unsolved mysteries.
New York City, 1976. A city in panic. A serial killer was on the loose targeting random strangers, and calling himself Son of Sam. He left behind terrifying letters, mocking the police. His victims were shot at close range, often while sitting in their cars. 6 people dead. 7 more injured. And no one knew who would be next. The city was paralyzed by fear. The police launched the biggest manhunt in NYC history. But despite all the resources, they had no clear suspect. Until one night, a woman witnessed something strange. A car parked illegally near a crime scene. She remembered it clearly and reported the license plate to the police. And that's all it took. A parking ticket, to catch one of America's most terrifying serial killers. It wasn't high-tech forensics. It wasn't a lucky confession. It was just one sharp-eyed witness. One mistake. One parking ticket. Want to hear more chilling stories like this? Hit that subscribe button. Darkness has many names.
A final meal: fried chicken, biscuits, and pecan pie. Sounds normal, but it was for a man who did the unthinkable. In 1998, 16-year-old Jennifer Long vanished. Days later, her remains were found dismembered and burned. The killer? Wesley Ira Perky. And that wasn't all. He also bludgeoned an 80-year-old woman to death with a hammer. He spent years on death row, claiming he had dementia. That he didn't even know why he was being executed. But the court wasn't convinced. On July 16, 2020, he was executed by lethal injection. His final words? "I deeply regret the pain I caused. Justice served or too late." He was the only Native American executed by the U.S. government in nearly 70 years. Lesmond Charles Mitchell, a member of the Navajo Nation, was convicted of a brutal double murder in 2001. He and an accomplice carjacked and murdered a 63-year-old grandmother and her 9-year-old granddaughter. He stabbed the woman to death, then slit the girl's throat before dismembering their bodies and burning the evidence in the desert. But here's the twist. His own tribal government opposed the execution. They pleaded with the U.S. to respect Navajo spiritual beliefs. But in 2020, during the Trump administration's rush to reinstate federal executions, Mitchell was put to death by lethal injection. It wasn't just a legal case, it was a clash between justice and cultural identity. What do you think? Justice or injustice?
In 1994, Orlando Hall committed one of the most brutal crimes in federal death row history. He was a drug dealer from Texas. After losing $4,700 in a failed drug deal, he and his crew went after the man responsible. But they couldn't find him, so they took his 16-year-old sister instead. Her name was Lisa Renee. They kidnapped her while she was calling 911. For 2 days, she was raped, beaten, and tortured. Then Hall took her to Arkansas, dug a grave, and buried her alive. Lisa was still breathing when the dirt covered her face. Orlando Hall was executed in 2020. His last words, "I'm sorry for the pain I caused. I'm ready." Backhand index pointing right. Want more shocking true crime cases? Follow for more stories from death row.